started. I have the pleasure of introducing our moderators for this portion of our seminar. We're going to actually have our moderators who will then follow with introductions for the panelists. We're going to start with the photographer, Miss Joy Pearson, born in Hampton, Virginia in 1980. She developed an interest in taking photos at a very young age from her father, Mr. Edward Pearson, who was also well known in their community for always having a camera in his hand. Upon graduating from Hampton University with a business degree, Joy moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where she became a model and worked as a market manager for a promotion company. In 2007, Ms. Pearson discovered her ability and passion to capture memorable moments and document people's personal experiences. She quickly built up a long list of clientele as an event and studio photographer. Recently, she added radio personality to her list of achievements. She actually works for Michael and Joy. She's the second half of Michael and Joy in the Morning, which airs live Monday through Friday. Her media experience inspired her to create the JoiStik, and you see the actual display, and you see the actual unit there. It's an innovation that allows the digital content creators to have the ability to stream live on multiple devices and various social media platforms. Joy's mission with photography, radio, and this JoiStik have catapulted with many ventures, and one in particular is to open up a school within the next 2 to 5 years, teaching creative minds like hers to grow their talents and skills in profitable, enriching businesses. Well, let me introduce you.
Hello, how are you doing today? I'm excited to be a part of the conversation. So, I guess on to the next, my other half.
All right, we have Michael A. McFadden. He brings an impressive, extensive, successful track record of director-level corporate leadership experience. Being a native of Southeast Washington, D.C., Michael intimately understands and employs and relies on sheer determination factors associated with achieving major success. As an owner and television show host of The Real Talk and Michael McFadden, Michael enjoys speaking in real issues that matter to the majority of our people. He is a seasoned national speaker and published author. He enjoys speaking to businesses and corporate sectors. He especially relishes in the opportunity to speak to children who need the inspiration and positive role models to help with their self-esteem and character building. Michael is famous for his ability to reveal one's truisms and the reality of life. In his first book, Truisms, The Next Level, can it be that simple? Michael delivers a message of simplicity and reality. Michael offers help on realizing the obvious claims in life that many of us ignore or don't even think about. Currently, Michael hosts Michael and Joy in the Morning, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 9 a.m. Sensation Station Network. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter at DC2ATL for more tips and motivation and daily answers. I present to you Michael A. McFadden.
I'm trying to figure out how you got that good picture up there. Why your picture better than mine?
Why is my hair still in your photo? Let's talk about that.
No, thank you guys. First of all, I gotta say thank you to Valerie Randolph and the Randolph Agency. Thank you very much for inviting us. And yes, one thing that, like with Michael and Joy, with our show, we wouldn't be able to be on Monday through Friday without our sponsors and contributors like Valerie. So thank you very much.
She's actually, very attractive
and
a sweet person. And then she brings the whole, what's your chapter? I don't need to say it because they're here. So she brings that as well.
We got an awesome panel for you guys today. And we're going to start by introducing the panel first, and then we're going to allow them to tell you a little bit about themselves. First up, we have Miss Christy Sims. Hey, Christy.
And then we have Miss Matrina Dorsey. I was going to say I went out of order. Well, this is a part part of live radio and live hosting, and sometimes it just doesn't always work out the way you expect it to.
You're right, so it's all
Thank you
good.
so much.
It's all good. We have Miss Allison Smith-Burke. Thank you for hanging out with us today.
We have Miss Charlotte Jackson.
And last but not least, Miss Jennifer Michelle. Hello, Jennifer. Jennifer volunteered to read aloud earlier today. Thank you very much for doing that. So, Miss Christy Sims.
Hello, everyone. I am Christy Sims. I'm the founder and president of the Christy Sims Foundation. I am affectionately known in the community as Courageous Christy. About 4 years ago, I was a professional counselor, and within the blink of an eye, I became a client. I was in a relationship with a guy, and I had made the decision that I did not want to marry him. And so he called me into the back of my house and we threw acid in my face. And I am one of probably only about 8 people in the United States that's been the victim of acid attack. It goes beyond domestic violence, but it's domestic violence, you know. I was not being physically abused before this happened to me. I just made the decision I did not want to be in a relationship anymore. I felt controlled and manipulated, so I backed out of it. So anyway, the past 4 years I've been in the media a lot. My story's been international, but I never missed an opportunity because I just feel like for something this drastic, I've been through 13 reconstructive surgeries to rebuild my face. For something this drastic to happen to me, I know that God wants me here, and I know that my life has meaning, and I know that I'm supposed to be making sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else. Domestic violence is real, it is serious, I don't like talking about it. It would be great if I could just move on with my life and go back to doing what I was doing before, but no such luck for me. So what I've decided to do is empower people and empower myself and take my story and flip it and turn it around and have meaning and make it have meaning. And I want people to live because I went through so much stuff. So.
Hi, my name is Allison Smith-Burke. I'm the Director of Public Policy with the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Our organization doesn't provide direct services per se. We do more training and technical assistance. We're a member-based organization. The domestic violence shelters, 46 of them across the state, are members of ours. And so for them, we provide training for their workers, and we also provide technical assistance, assistance on special cases. We also engage in public policy advocacy. So I'm our lobbyist at the state capitol, working on various pieces of legislation that help improve the lives of victims. We also have several special projects, one of which is the Fatality Review Project, and you're free to pick up our latest report back to the back. We look in depth at, it's mostly women who have been killed in domestic violence homicides, and we sort of retrace their life and figure out when did she call police, who did she reach out to, did she reach out to her faith community, where are the places where we can intervene. So this is a report based on that. Also have some other handouts back there, including a snapshot of statistics of how many people are being served in domestic violence programs across the state. And also a brochure that I hope all of you will pick up, which is Domestic Violence, What to Do if Your Friends or Family Members Are Being Abused. And this is to help people feel more comfortable having that conversation with their family members. So thanks for having me.
Good afternoon, SARS.
Good afternoon.
I am Charlotte Jackson. I'm a domestic violence and sexual assault resource prosecutor for the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. And you're like, what is that? Basically what I do is I take my more than 20 years of experience as a prosecutor and I use it to help law enforcement, other prosecutors, and victims advocates better serve victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And I'm really lucky that I have help doing that. I can grab everything that is generated by Allison's agency, particularly the Fatality Review Project, and in that way I'm able to use the data and the findings of Fatality Review, and I use that to help me to inform me on how I should deploy my resources. And in looking at some of the data, one of the things that has really inspired me to want to bring down the rates of fatality, domestic violence fatalities, is the rates at which Black women are victims of fatal domestic violence incidents. It's serious, y'all. It's a huge issue, and so I really, really try to make sure that in these rural areas, there's a lot going on in the cities, but in these rural areas that we actually are getting the information, the training, the knowledge, the resources that we need to address this issue. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Michelle. I'm a community advocate for Promise Place. And for those of you who don't know what Promise Place is, we are the local resource for domestic violence victims. We service Fayette, Spalding, Pike, and Upson counties. So there's 4 counties that we do. We have our main office here in Fayette County, but we have satellite offices in the other 3 counties. My core to what I do is coming out to events like this, trying to educate the most we can with as many people as that we can. But we're also, our focus too is not only on adults, but on our teens and our kids. And so I go out and teach in the schools every school year. We go out and we just started recently teaching into the middle schools, which if you go back and look, you'll see that in talking to victims of domestic violence, that a lot of theirs started as young as 11 and 12 years old, whether they witnessed it themselves or become victims of it themselves, with just something as simple as verbal abuse or mental and psychological abuse as young as, 5th, 6th grade, which is sad. So hopefully today I'll give you some more information about teen dating violence and encourage you to talk to your kids. If you have teens, make sure you're talking to them and having those conversations and opening those doors so we can try to reduce the level of teen dating violence. Because 1 in 3 teens are going to be a victim. So thank you for having me.
Hello guys, I'm Katrina Dorsey and I am a survivor. I actually experienced an 18-year abusive relationship, and after experiencing that, and I actually did a fast, and when I did the fast, a 40-day fast, during that fast I was delivered from that mind trap. And I shared my story in a book that's entitled Wounds to Wisdom. And after I came out of that experience, the first thing that I was passionate about was sharing my story. And when I began sharing my story, Tamiko Lowry Pugh, which is the founder of the Still Standing Foundation, we just teamed up and I was appointed as the director of parent-child advocacy there, because my passion was to turn reactive victims into proactive survivors. Because me being a mother, when I was going through that situation, I was just under so much stress and so much tension that I didn't think proactively. I was just basically reacting to my environment. So we have developed a curriculum where we educate, we do seminars in churches throughout the community, and speaking engagements like we are today. Our latest thing that we've done is teamed up with Marcy's Law, and I have some pamphlets there in the back. And right now in the state of Georgia, we are one of 15 states where the criminals have more rights than the victims. So I would love for you guys to pick up one of the pamphlets in the back, and if you would log online to the website and just sign the petition. We're trying to get as many petitions signed as we can. So I'm just happy to be here and ready for the Q&A.
So we are, with that, we are going to be opening it for questions from the guests here. And also, I just wanted to let you know that we are live streaming the panel today on Facebook, on your chapter page was tagged, and on Joy Pearson. Check 1 2 1 2.
Check.
Could I get a number 2?
No, I'm gonna bring this around, so if you have any questions for our panelists, we'll open it up. We got a question in the back, we'll come back. Also, too, I want to remind you guys that we have some beautiful purse. What are these purse?
It's like a tassel.
Yeah, like a tassel, that if you make a donation today, you will receive one of these. We have them back there in the back, so feel free to make a donation. I mean, $100 donation is cool, but whatever you donate, we would definitely enjoy. So we're going to open it up, and I got a special guest for y'all today, too. She's not here for this rough crowd. She's here for something else. So we have a question in the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I ask my question, I want to say something to Christy. Christy, you are courageous. I know you. I followed that story. I taught that person's child, and I'm so glad justice, because I knew when I looked at you, I knew. But my question is, if you see someone being abusive, most people do not get involved or say anything. What do you recommend for handling this?
Is it directed to anybody in particular?
Anybody can answer the question for me. It's a little emotional right now.
Let me just repeat the question. So you're asking, if you see someone that's being abused, you're wondering why don't people get involved?
Yes.
Well, I think a lot of people just think to themselves that they're minding their own business. They're minding their own business. But the thing that we have to do is we have to get involved. But the problem is a lot of the times when women come to someone and they share that they're experiencing something, like for me, for example, I was living in a $2 million home. So when I shared what I was going through with my mom and my friends, they were like, girl, just go upstairs and sleep in another bedroom. You got it good. You know, don't complain. So what I got from my friends is that they weren't very supportive of me. So I would suggest that if you're in a situation and you see someone that I think Lisa was saying, if they're wearing sunglasses or wearing long sleeves and you know they don't normally do that, just open up communication and talk to them. Because I tell you, when you start talking about it, breaking the silence is the beginning of breaking the cycle of abuse. It begins with breaking the silence. So I would suggest just coming out of that minding your own business attitude and just ask a question and just be prepared to listen and not to give a lot of advice. Don't say, why are you not leaving? Why are you doing that? Just listen. Just listen.
Thank you. We got one question, Ms. Sims in the back.
Good afternoon. Do children experience domestic violence?
Yes, one of the biggest issues that we talk about, that we address as prosecutors, is ensuring that when domestic violence incidents happen, that we account for the children being present. There's actually a charge in Georgia called cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, and we urge our police officers to charge batterers with that charge if the child experiences themselves or witnesses an incident of domestic violence. And it's really crucial that we do this. One, the state of Georgia has a number of services that are available for children who are victims of domestic violence that are funded by our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Essentially what happens is when someone is convicted of a crime, they pay fees that go towards the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and it's also funded through other types of grants. These fees provide a pool of money that is actually used to help victims of crime. And so once a child is identified as a victim of a domestic violence incident, it makes them amenable for counseling, medical services, a range of other services. Another thing that helps our children is that our victims do have a lot of rights here in Georgia. Victims have statutory rights under the Crime Victims Bill of Rights already, and we have victims advocates that work in every judicial circuit, which is essentially in every courthouse, and for every child that's a victim of crime, they have a victim advocate that can help them through the court process, work with their parents, and notify them of court dates. So no, we're not always perfect, but we really do make the efforts to help children.
I'll also say that the 46 domestic violence, they're certified domestic violence shelters throughout the state, each of them has a child advocate. And for people being served by that shelter, their children can go to their children's groups that they have, which are therapeutic in nature to help them overcome the trauma that comes with witnessing domestic violence.
One last point, we also have prosecutors that specialize in working with children and making sure that their cases are handled appropriately and that court is more child-friendly. Because you can imagine what it must be like to have a child that have to testify against a parent that's committed an act of domestic violence.
Thank you.
Hi, is there a danger in interceding in an abusive situation?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Is there a danger in interceding in a abusive situation?
Yeah, I think intervening is something that people need to be really careful about. I think there's a fine line there. I think that the most helpful thing that you can do, I mean, most people who abuse are not doing it in public. That's just number one. They put out a different face to the public. But if you see this going on, a lot of times it looks like you've got a friend, you're at a party, and her husband berates her and embarrasses her in front of everyone else. I think it's important in those cases where you see, especially verbal altercations, to step in and say, and name the behavior, basically say, like, look, guy, I saw you just berate her, and that's not cool. But yes, there's a danger if you're going to get involved in a physical altercation. That I believe your safest thing to do is to call law enforcement. But a lot of times what you're going to see is more of the verbal abuse, and that's the stuff that you can call out.
And speaking of law enforcement, we have Fayetteville's very own hanging out with us today. Good afternoon. Now, can you address that question kind of sort of, because you're in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, there's a danger in trying to intervene between a dangerous situation with domestic violence. And we see that a lot. We see a lot of these calls where someone is trying to intervene, or even the victim is trying to intervene with the abuser, and vice versa, and those types of things. And that's when you start to get into the physical side of things, which is when, unfortunately, us, having a obligation at that point to report domestic violence or make an arrest or those types of things. Obviously, we're not out there to arrest. That's not our main goal. The last thing we want to do is split the family up and cause more of a financial hardship on the family. But then again, we also do have an obligation to make an arrest if something has happened physically or those types of things. So it's a difficult situation.
And can you remind everybody of your name again? Because I'll mess it up. But I do need to know if I'm ever caught down in Fayetteville, or something like that, who I can call.
Okay, it's Leslie Flugerman. I've been with Fayetteville Police Department for about 5 years. I did about 2 years with Fayette County at their jail as a corrections officer. So I have about 7 years of experience, and I just moved over to a community position, which is called CARE. It's Community Activity, Resource, and Education. We do a lot of educational seminars, and we'll come out to these events and just try to be another resource in your purple purse, which I learned about that today. So, just another tool, another resource for you to call on.
Joy, we got a Fayetteville connection. Ms. Montgomery.
Good afternoon. The last study I read when I was back in California is that it takes a woman on average 9 times to leave for good. She leaves and goes back. And I'd like to start with you, Ms. Christie, and invite all of the panelists to respond to why you think that is and what the support system can do to help them.
Thank you for that question. I thought it was 7, but you're probably right about 9 times. May even be more. The negative statistics, they're not always exact because not everybody reports everything. But let's just say 9 times to leave. And everywhere I go, I make it a point to bring up the subject of what everybody talks about is, why didn't she just leave? Why didn't she just leave? Well, I have a very unique situation. I was hurt because I was leaving. and I wasn't being abused prior to leaving. So it kind of like eliminates that question, right? But what about all those women that stay for different reasons, and they're various reasons, and they're endless reasons? Okay, let's say it takes 9 times for that person to leave. When you're in that situation, first of all, the cycle of abuse is very interesting. And it's amazing that I was in it for a period of time, but I didn't even realize that I was in it because it was not physical abuse. It was more emotional abuse, verbal abuse, control, and manipulation, you know, followed by lots of love and moments of goodness and kindness. You know how it works, domestic violence. And so I just want you to picture a woman who already, especially if she's been physically abused, already in a situation where she's afraid. She may have children. A lot of times, they talked about it earlier, is financial abuse. She may not be able to leave for financial reasons. You have to make sure, and I tell people this all the time, we have a tendency to say, why don't you just leave? Well, guess what? 75% of all reported cases of domestic violence happen, and people are harmed when they are leaving the relationship. It becomes dangerous when you remove the control away from a controlling person. You realize that, right? So we as a society, we have to stop asking the question, why doesn't she just leave? And figure out how to help her and how to help her in the process, right? We create judgment and we perpetuate the silence, which perpetuates the violence. It's silence that causes the violence. She doesn't talk to anybody because she feels like she's going to be judged. If we're standing back comfortably saying, why did it take her 9 times to leave? Even that question alone, why did it take her 9 times to leave? Who cares why it took her 9 times to leave? It could have been for financial reasons. It could have been because he threatened her family. Some people threaten their families. It could have been because she knows if I remove this man, in my situation, this man threw acid in my face because I didn't want to get married. So there are a lot of reasons why it takes 9 times. You know, but I just think that the main point as a society, we can just fix this one thing right here. Stop asking the question, why doesn't she just leave? Because it's irrelevant. It could be she's in a cycle of abuse. She doesn't have the money to leave. If you leave too soon, guess what? You'll end up right back there. If you don't have anywhere to go, if you don't have any resources, if you don't have anywhere to call. In her situation, she was living in a $2 million house, and not even her family was a support system for her. So maybe that's why she stayed for so long, you know? And so that's the real issue here is, as a society, we have to stop asking the question, why doesn't she just stay? And figure out how we can help people. I'm a counselor by trade, so guess what? I look at the whole picture. I focus on prevention, education, and awareness. That's what I do with the Christy Sims Foundation. I go as early as 13 years old, and I start talking to 13-year-old girls about what it looks like to be abused. Because you know what? I don't want her to be in a situation where she's there and she's feeling trapped because she has no resources, she has no options. I want her to already be equipped. Him also, because men get abused too. I want them to already be equipped before they even meet the person that is a potential abuser. So, that's my take on it.
A lot of times it's thinking about, it's like starting over. It's like starting over your life. And remember, this guy, most people who abuse are not abusive every single hour, every single day. They're abusive sometimes, and they're sweet as sugar other times. So I think we think in our head a big bad abuser. No, I mean, like, you'd be a fool if you stay with somebody who's abusive 24/7, but that's not how it goes. There are good qualities to these guys. And so I think that's what we have to think about too. We also have to think about the fact what Christy said, like 75% of domestic violence homicides happen when a woman is leaving. So that's when it gets really, really dangerous. And another thing is, what if you've got kids? Then you've got to go through this whole complicated court process of trying to get child support and trying to get custody. A lot of times, honestly, men have the upper hand financially in that situation, so they can get the better attorney. And the list goes on and on. So, you know, I think we really need to stop asking why victims stay, because there are so many very, very good reasons why they do.
So as a prosecutor, one of the things that I like to train prosecutors, law enforcement, and advocates to do is just flip the script on that. It's about better accountability, isn't it? Isn't domestic violence a crime? Right? It's not a moral failing. It's not a bad judgment. It's a crime. And we should be treating it as it's a crime. And so we really need to look at batterer's behavior and ways that we are supporting it as a society. And we think about, remember the Ray Rice case. What were people asking? What did she do? What did she say to him to make him hit her? Or do we believe the victim? I was amazing reading a lot of the comments on social media. Anytime there's a domestic violence case, people look at the motivation for the victim to say that they're being battered, to finally come out and think about how difficult that is. But no one says, why does this person feel the need to abuse, manipulate, and control their victims? And so I think we really need to look at that differently. Take the onus off of our victims. They have enough on their plate, reshaping their lives.
I concur. I was a retired law enforcement officer here in this community for over 20 years. My passion has been since day one is working with domestic violence victims. I have gone to, I got my post certification so I could teach on domestic violence. I went to the Federal Law Enforcement Academy so I could teach domestic violence. I used to teach my officers all the time that when you respond to something, please don't ask those questions because it's irrelevant of why they're still there. It's absolutely irrelevant. You need to be focused on, one, how can you get resources to this person that's in need? Two, is there something that we're going to have to arrest on? If they've committed a criminal act, then those people, that the batterer needs to go to jail. And even the stigma of involving the kids at home. And don't be asking these questions in front of the batterer. Give them an opportunity to come and talk openly to you about what's going on. And even still today, even when I go and teach in the schools now, the kids ask questions. It's all about social media is huge within the schools, and that's still a question I get from 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. They're like, well, she did it on her, she did that, so he did this. And that's something that's a stigma that, I try to educate the kids on, especially because I don't want them with that same perspective of, well, it's my fault if I get beat up. It's my fault when he calls me names. It's my fault when I don't answer my phone. It's my fault because it's not her fault. And the stigma needs to be turned back, it needs to be taken off and ask those questions of why is he doing what he's doing and why is the batterer doing what they're doing.
Well, I agree with all of the panelists, but I just want to add that for me, one of the main reasons was financial reasons. I was financially controlled, so and he told me that if I left, that he wouldn't help me with the kids, he wouldn't support me, and I just didn't know how I would do it. I married him when I was 20 years old, and I left when I was 39, and again, I was financially controlled. Another reason is all of the stigma. Everyone is asking the question, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to admit that you're dealing with this situation at home. Because most of us are walking around wearing a mask, pretending that everything is okay. I mean, and to a certain degree, this can be normal because we all put on a mask from time to time. I mean, we interact differently in different social environments. So, but when there is a severe level of being inauthentic in most of your relationships, then that just carries on to how you built your relationships. And then you're isolated. And then you're not communicating. Or when you're communicating, you're not being authentic. And again, you're embarrassed to say what's happening. So you might be in a conversation and you're listening to your friends talk about someone else that's having a situation. You're not going to sit in that conversation and admit that you're experiencing the same thing. So it's very difficult to admit. You have to become authentic. You have to be authentic with yourself and the people that are around you and feel comfortable to have that conversation with someone. So again, though, I do think that one of the main reasons is the financial aspect.
And we got one more question.
Good afternoon, ladies. Jennifer Michelle, you hit on this just a little bit. What advice would any of you ladies give a victim who feel like they provoked their situations or they're the fault, they're the cause that they're in this situation?
That's what we're here for. We offer counseling. We offer independent. We do have, as Allison spoke, all the agencies that help in the state all have similar things going on. But the assistance that you give to anyone that's been in that situation, because it's a rebuilding process. Because when you're part of a domestic violence relationship, you have been beat down. Your self-esteem has dropped to pretty much nothing. And you have nothing. You feel like because you've been financially controlled that you're not worth, you don't have the knowledge or the ability to go out because your abusers told you so many times. You're too stupid. There's no way you're going to be able, who's going to hire you? The best that you can do is maybe work at a fast food restaurant. Even if that, you'll be just mopping up floors or something because you don't have the brain to do anything beyond that. And so that's a holdback. And trying to work with the ladies and kids too that are involved, but trying to work with them so you're helping rebuild and reestablish them to where they can go out and know that they have more self-confidence in themselves and they know that they're empowered because they have a brain in their head that they can do these things. And offering things like this to educate the community, you may not know it, but you could be talking to somebody right now to know that you can come to an organization like Promise Place and get that help. Or have somebody like Charlotte who's got your back because they're going to prosecute the person who's done this to you. So you have a little bit of peace of mind so you can start rebuilding yourself over again.
Coming from the perspective of the court system, I think protecting the integrity of the court system by providing victims your best work. You don't win every case, but when you respect the victim and going through the court process and giving them your best effort, I think that helps a victim to feel believed, validated, and supported throughout that process, and that in itself can help a victim to move along with their lives. Even if what happens in the court system isn't perfect, providing what the victim needs to get through that process and showing them that everyone has access to justice through your actions.
What I would say to a victim that's blaming themselves or thinking that somehow they've triggered it is that there's nothing that you can say to someone to make them hit you. There's nothing that you can say to someone to make them hit you. They are solely responsible. If they don't like what you're saying, or if they feel like they're provoked, it's on them to walk away, no matter how quote unquote bitchy you're being. You know, it's up to them to walk away. They have that choice whether or not to use violence.
Thank you, ladies, for being transparent. I think that the most important thing is transparency so that we can feel comfortable asking the question and know that we're in an environment where people will listen and not judge. I think the other thing too is, as females, majority of us in here, we have to also remember that when your girlfriend calls you or your cousin or your family, sometimes it's not for you to give your opinion. You just need to shut up and listen sometimes. And the reason why they're not being transparent with you because it's always about you. You've got that girlfriend that you don't call because she will tell you all her problems and everything that's going on, but you want to be able to share. And so I think that's one of the reasons sometimes you just need to listen. So with that being said, thank you. And how can all of the ladies get in contact with each and every one of you?
You can get in contact, of course, with the Still Standing Foundation by going onto the website, www.thestillstanding.com. I do want to also say that on October 17th, we're having our annual Purple Affair. We would love for you guys to come out and support our affair where we will be honoring survivors of domestic violence. You can reach me, Mitrina Dorsey. I'm on Facebook, Mitrina Dorsey, and other social media at purpleforlife.com.
We are Promise Place is, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have Twitter. So if you find us on any of those three, please click like and follow. We'd love to have you on there. We try to put up a lot of good information for you. So we're also have a website, which is simple, promiseplace.org. I do all the social media, so if you reach out to us on social media, you'll reach me pretty quickly, because usually I have that cell phone with me wherever I'm at. So feel free to give us a call. We do have a crisis line number if you're in need in the community, which is 770-460-1604. That is operated 24/7. There's always somebody going to answer a phone. You got a question, you need out, you need help, please call us. We'll be glad to assist.
Charlotte Jackson. Our website is pacj.org. If you wanted to get in touch with me, I will leave my contact information with the organizers of this event. We don't provide direct.
Happy fingers. We don't provide direct services, but we can probably help you get referrals
To the ones that you need.
Our website is G is in Georgia, C is in coalition, A is in against, D is in domestic, V is in violence.org. So that's GCADV.org. You can also pick up one of the pamphlets back at the back, and it's got our website address on it. I'd also like to point out there is a statewide domestic violence hotline. That hotline connects you to any of the 46 domestic violence shelters throughout the state, depending on where you call from, so it routes you smartly. That number is 1-800-33-HAVEN. That's 1-800-334-2836.
Christy Sims, once again, I have a foundation, Domestic Violence Foundation. We focus primarily on prevention, education, and awareness. Best way to get in touch with me is christysims.org. What we do is I go into high schools, middle schools, and colleges, and we do workshops, and we talk to the kids, we empower them, we give them all the warning signs. So that's what I do as a foundation. I also have a book out. Also, it was featured on the Doctor Show recently and Crown Watch Daily recently. It's called Yellow Tulips on a Cloudy Day. I journaled the entire process that I went through to rebuild my life the past 4 years. Every surgery, the criminal trial, everything that I went through. I released my private journal and I put it in a book, and it's doing extremely well. So if you want to get the book, you can't exchange here, but you can go to courageouschristy.com to purchase my book, and I'll autograph it and send it directly to you. Thank you.
Round of applause once again. I just have to say, as a talk show host and what Joy and I do on a daily basis, it's not only is it a fun thing to do to be able to come on at 7 o'clock in the morning and just entertain millions and millions, but the thing is, I learn so much. And you know, some people don't get that, but when I'm there and Joy and I are interviewing guests, I'm a pupil just as well. So we don't just do domestic violence as a, you know, because it's a catchy month thing to do. You know, it's the best. Are we gonna bring it? No, we do this all day long, and we love to address these issues. So, ladies, thank you very much. Chrissy, you forgot to talk about that Braves game coming up. Oh. Yeah, she got a date, Atlanta Braves. So Chrissy and I went to high school together. I've been knowing Chrissy for like 30 plus years. If y'all want to know her age, I will tell y'all in a. Okay, no.
Listen, I walked in the room thinking he was here to support me. I didn't realize he was the MC. Okay, I can take pictures and everything. I didn't realize he was the MC. I think he's a celebrity also. Anyway, the Atlanta Braves are honoring me on August 21st. I'm going to go out to the field. They're honoring me for the things that I've done in the past 4 years. I guess just for being courageous, just waking up from a coma and helping other people for 4 years, the past 4 years. It's a community. They honor me as a community hero Monday, August 21st. If you listen to the Joy and Michael show, I'm going to be giving away. Michael and Joy. Sorry, I'll put the ladies first. If you listen to the Michael and Joy show, what is that? Maybe the week of the August 14th, all the way up to the game, I'm going to be giving away free tickets. Okay, so thank you. But August 21st, put it on your schedule, and remember, it's a good book. So if you can, courageouschristy.com is where to get my book. Okay, thank you.
once again, last but not least, Valerie Randolph and the
Randolph Agency. We got to keep going this thing. Once again, Carol Wackman Montgomery, and I'm the president of the Hedera Foundation. For those of you who had any question about my question to the panel, I had already talked to Ms. Christie about that before we began. I worked in this field in California for over 20 years, and I wanted them to respond to that issue because I know it comes up as a matter of fact, and people do ask the very questions that they address. So I wanted to thank you for that comprehensive answer, because people need to know that when they ask those questions, they're blaming and judging and placing a stigma on the victim as opposed to addressing the issue in terms of the person who was committing the crime. So I wasn't on the side of the abuser. We had already had that conversation about getting that information out to you so that you would know and you can help someone. But as I said in the beginning, the Hedera Foundation is a 501c3 charitable organization, and we focus on Coweta and Fayette counties, but we actually work throughout the state of Georgia. So if any of you are interested in contributing, making a tax-deductible donation to the Hedera Foundation, you can send us an email at thehederafoundation.com. We will get back to you. We take PayPal, we take checks, we take cash, we take anything. But really, the bottom line is we really and truly appreciate all of you coming out today. We appreciate the panelists, we appreciate the Allstate Foundation and the agency owners. We appreciate you, Officer Leslie. We are just so very grateful that all of you came out today to share with us and to hear about what we're talking about in terms of domestic violence, and we are hoping that you can take some kernel of information that you learned today out to your friends, your family, your community, that you can share the wisdom that's been shared with us today, so that in some way we can help someone who is suffering from domestic violence and abuse. I have a question. Did y'all enjoy today? Yes. We'll be doing this again, and we'll be contacting you all again for further response and information. But thank you. Thank you doesn't quite say it, but it's just all I have.
And I would just like to say, on behalf of the Allstate Foundation, this has been just an honor and a privilege to partner with the Hedera Foundation on this effort to eradicate domestic violence. I think we had an awesome panel. And to my fellow, the hosts of the Michael and Joy Morning Show, I just appreciate you all for coming out and sharing and also caring like you do every single day, especially on Thursday. Just a plug, join us on Thursdays at 7 o'clock in the morning as we bring hot topics to you. So thank you everyone for coming out this evening.